Welcome to a brand new character concept made just for you and your Pathfinder 2nd edition games, may it be as a player character or an NPC. My name is Model 42 and today I want to show you Flamma, a unique looking sorcerer who is a Lizardfolk and an Ifrit. As usual, feel free to use and change my characters in any way to fit your game or style. Stay to the end of the video where you will find out how you can get Flamma for free on a detailed character sheet PDF. Without further ado, let's look at them. Since Flamma is a sorcerer, they do not have a class level, but will have other, very magical things to make up for that. They are quite strong, of average agility and quickness, very durable and fit, of normal intelligence, a quite wise and calm being, and are also very sympathetic in their own unique way. Though not particularly well trained or educated, they are quite skilled and very good in diplomacy and intimidation, as well as quite good in nature and survival, being a part of it for a longer time. The other skills are either completely untrained or decent. They speak Common and Iroxy, have a normal perception, good fortitude, pretty good strength of will, though is not as good when it comes to avoiding things. With a normal speed of 25 feet, or 5 squares, they do not stand out, have a good amount of hit points for a sorcerer, and because of their abilities suffer 1 less damage from fire, which is nice and quite unique. As a magical user, they are not very good in their armor class, since they are not gifted with a high dexterity, and since armor is not a thing for them, they do not care either. Being trained in simple and unarmed weapons does not help much, though they can attack with their claws, a primitive sickle or dagger, all of them not being strong weapons, though most of them are usually used as tools for their growing interest in herbs and alchemy, and defend they will with very different methods. We look at in a while and put those small weapons to shame. Because they are of Lizardfolk descent, they gain the aquatic adaptation ability, giving them the breath control feat, which allows them to hold their breath 25 times longer than normal and also adds a +1 bonus to inhaled threats. Also, since they have the Ifrit heritage, they resist fire equal half their level, minimum 1, and treat environmental heat effects as 1 step less severe. As their first level ancestry feat we chose Cindersal from the Ifrit heritage, which is also a lineage, so either we chose it now, or can never choose it. This reduces the DC against persistent acid, bleed and poison damage to 10 instead of 15, going down to 5, if they have effective assistance. Really cool stuff overall so far. As the skill feat from being an herbalist, they gain natural medicine, which allows them to make the skill check for the treat wounds ability with nature instead of medicine and even get a +2 bonus while in nature for that, at the DM's discretion of course. Full spellcasters do not get a class feat on level 1, but we have 2 impressive abilities though, with one being able to cast spells with all the benefits in the rules, so I won't go over that right here. We have to talk about their bloodline though, which every sorcerer has to choose. They have the elemental bloodline with, take a guess, fire is their choice, which means that some marked spells, in the book with an asterisk and here with a BL, deal fire damage instead of whatever they would usually do, and they also, on cast, either give them a +1 bonus to intimidation until the beginning of their next turn or just deals 1 more fire damage per spell level, which right now is a simple bonus damage. Nice one and stays useful through the game, though not impressive in any way. This will also give them access to focus spells and additional spells throughout their lifetime from the primal spell list and sometimes even others. When it comes to other abilities, they only use 3, that pretty much every spellcaster uses. First, to cast a spell, they need to use 1, 2, or 3 caster spell abilities with different components, but that is pretty much it. If used for a focus spell, also a focus point needs to be spent. Some spells can also be sustained, which is just the use of 1 action to keep the spell active until the end of their next turn, though if this exceeds the maximum duration or 100 turns, whatever is shorter, they will be fatigued, a status in which they also cannot sustain spells. To gain focus points back, they have an activity called Refocus, which takes 10 minutes of rest, or whatever you want to do as a sorcerer. They do not have any special things to do, like praying or meditating, to gain 1 point back. All standard stuff, but listed for convenience. Speaking of spells, They are trained in spell attacks very well with a good +6 and a spell DC of 16. Sorcerers are spontaneous casters, so aside from their cantrips they do not have to prepare spells, and cast them as long as they have spell slots left over, which in our case they do for casting primal spells. At level 1 Flamma can cast 3 level 1 spells and their cantrip level, as well as focus spell level, is 1. They also have a focus pool of 1 to cast their first focus spell, Elemental Toss, which is a nice fire spell that deals 1d8 fire damage per spell level. When it comes to cantrips, Flamma can prepare and choose 5 cantrips which they then can cast as often as they'd like per day. For attacks they use Produce Flame, which they are granted through their bloodline, and also as a bloodline spell, they can cast No Direction so they never get lost. Light to have a cheap and magical source to carry around, oftentimes a stick or twig that was lying around, Stabilize to help save lives, no matter if human or animal, and lastly Tanglefoot, which might be one of the most underrated cantrips and can slow targets down by 10 feet and even immobilize them. A huge variety, making them an important part of the group and highly versatile in their approach of most situations. This also is reflected in the 3 level 1 spells they know, one of which being Burning Hands, which is a bloodline spell and can deal very decent fire damage in a 15-foot cone, that can be heightened very well over the course of the game. Another is Heal, probably the best spell in the game, and because of its multiple ways to be cast via different actions, one that is always helpful, either healing a close target, a target in 30 feet range, or all targets in a 30-foot burst. Lastly, to frighten enemies and make the combat easier for the rest of the party, they can cast Fear, which can frighten a target for up to 3, which is amazing and should be used more often against single enemies and bosses. When it comes to their equipment, they can carry a bulk of 6 easily without penalty and a maximum of 11, and still have 36 copper and 45 silver pieces in their purse. Equipped or on their body they carry a primitive sickle, a brown and ordinary loincloth, some jewelry for the tresses, which are worth and bought for with 7 silver, a bandolier for future potions, as well as a dagger. Those weapons are mostly used as tools, but also to defend if necessary. Furthermore, in their inventory there are a backpack, alchemist's tools, a bedroll, belt pouch, 10 candles, flint and steel, a blank formula book, material component pouch, rations for a week, a sack, 2 sheaths for their weapons, soap, 3 torches, 4 vials, a water skin, writing set, a leathery explorer's raincoat, and grey and white winter furs for further travel. Many of those items are still new to Flamma, but they knew instinctively after seeing them that they might need them for more professional studies. With that out of the way, let's look at Flamma's personality, starting with the basics as usual. They are a Lizardfolk of Ifrit heritage and have the herbalist background. The traits therefore are pretty much the same: Lizardfolk, Ifrit, and humanoid. This primal sorcerer is of medium size, with a very neutral alignment and persona in pretty much all their approaches and feelings, though deep down they just want a simple and happy life and care for others they like very deeply, possibly going out of their way to help them. They also pray to Orsita, the Welcomer, who you can find in the Lost Omens Gods and Magic book on page 53, idolizing her neutrality and politeness, that Flamma wants to show others as well, stopping traditions that limit people and breaking them down with understanding, kindness and facts, which is why they study so hard and want to learn more about the world. They are Isari, born in the jungles near Najisa in the Mwangi Expanse and have lived for 27 years now, mostly alone, being 1 meter and 94 centimeters, or 6 feet 4 inches, in height and 75 kilograms, or 165 pounds, in weight. They are an impressive sight, not only because of their unique looks, established by their heritage and bloodline. If it wasn't obvious before, they are non-binary in their gender, for the sake of instinctual neutrality, but also, they really don't care much about their own gender, as long as they feel fine and happy. Since Lizardfolk are very akin to one another and males and females almost look the same at first glance, it is easy to become less prone to fall into one or the other role, and be just themselves. Interestingly enough, Flamma has a huge interest in the female body, anatomy and soul of other ancestries, especially humans, which are way more diverse and colourful in their appearance, physical shape, and personality, being drawn to them uniquely. This leads to them being feminimoric. though, with all my characters, you may change their gender and sexuality to your liking, as well as everything else, so do not feel constrained by my choices for them. Make them your own, and if you love what I did, awesome. When it comes to their personality, I again used my 10-point method and chose 2 unique characteristics from Lizardfolk, 2 from Geniekin Ifrit, 2 from the Sorcerer class, and added 4 of my own design. For Flamma, this means they demonstrate extreme patience at all times, no matter if in their studies, in talking with other people, or just waiting in line. They also hold their people's history in high regard, though there are some things they might want to change for acceptance purposes, if they can. Being interested in many things, they always keep going forward, never looking back too much, and want to try pretty much everything, which can lead to some really funny role-playing situations. In addition, they take pride in being a fiery Ifrit and consider themselves a noble member of Malik blood, being highly fascinated by their powers and lineage, striving to learn more and get stronger, but also being driven with the subconscious desire to prove themselves to the world, show them of what they are capable of for the good of all. Being an open and curious being, they started an interest in herbs and alchemy, and after visiting a bigger city for the first time to buy helpful tools and more, they are more focused than ever before, if it weren't for their other subject of choice, which is the female body and soul, a very deep and highly interesting subject that can combine studies with pleasure. Harder said than done, since Flamma is a bit strange looking for most normal humanoid contact, but what takes time, that they know. As a being of fire, they noticed and learned about the healing energy this element has, how fertile a ground can be after a volcanic explosion or a wooden fire, and they want to explore that in their studies as well, maybe even become a specialist in that sort of field, though they look very out of place most of the time, and their grin can look a bit fiendish and creepy. They are a very friendly and lovable person, though maybe a bit quirky, since they are unaccustomed to the life in a big city and the people that live there, though feel quiet at home in villages and lovely towns near nature and forests as well as jungles. Again, as you can see, this method should provide you with lots of points to go on and play off of, even with a highly specialized person like Flamma, who I was actually quite afraid to create and upload, since their identity and sexuality is way more different than anything I have ever written and can be a dividing factor in today's times, though the more I wrote, the more I absolutely fell in love with the character, and I wouldn't change a thing. Again, feel free to change anything you like, if you feel it not fitting your world and setting, but I will not go into any discussion, though if I did a fine job, and you were of a similar gender identity, please tell me in the comments, so I know I can maybe try that again in the future, or improve if I did a mistake somewhere. If you want Flamma as a filled-out character sheet PDF, just hop on over to my Facebook and send me a friendly hello, and tell me you want to play or have Flamma, or whatever character of mine you liked, and I will send it to you as soon as possible. If you liked this video or character, please leave a like to quickly support my channel, subscribe for more content and guides, and leave me a comment what you think of this unique character and how you would use them. See you in the roads of Galarian, and stay safe, my friends.